Hello, Brad fans. What is up? I've got another In Conversation episode for you today, and this one takes on a bit of a different flavor. And that's because not too long ago, the Department of National Defense reached out to this podcast because they want to discuss and bring to you information about a relatively new program that they've started called Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security. That's the IDEAS program. The website for this program will be listed on the show description and in the notes, so do check it out. And what the program is, in essence, is a way for the Canadian Forces to tap into the innovative ideas and minds in the Canadian public. If you're a researcher, an academic, you have a small startup, or you're part of a major corporation, or even if you're working from your garage, they want to hear from you concerning challenges to problems that they have. So on their website, they have lists of contests, funding opportunities, all sorts of problems or challenges that they face that they need solutions to, or that they're looking for innovative solutions to. They've set up a number of incentives, such as funding, prizes that can be won, kind of like you've heard of the, what was it called, SpaceX Challenge or something like this, where researchers compete to see if they can achieve a certain benchmark, whether it's unmanned flight or something like this, and then they get the money for that. But basically, it's a way to solicit ideas and innovative solutions from the public for national defense challenges. So do check out the website. It's really interesting. I sat down and chatted over Skype with Chris Brosinsky, the director of the program, and he detailed a lot of information on how it works, who they're looking for, which is basically everyone, how to get involved, and we talked a little bit about some of the subject areas that are open on the website. And I think that even if you're not so much interested in applying for one of these, or you have ideas or anything like that, it's interesting to go to the website and just see what sort of areas these challenges fall under. I was surprised by a few of them. Some cybersecurity stuff, which is maybe not so surprising, but tracking space debris, things like this. And it really gives you a picture of what the military in Canada is up to. A lot of times we think it's just overseas deployment, but they do a lot in terms of helping citizens at home with natural disasters, those living in remote communities, things like this. So it's interesting just to check out, go there and look on the tab on the right of the page that's current opportunities, future opportunities, past opportunities, to see all the categories of things that they're looking for and the specific challenges that they are looking for solutions to. One that we spoke about specifically is called Pop-Up City Integrated Energy, Water, and Waste Management Systems for Deployed Camps. So they're looking for proposals on how to make their deployment camps better in terms of getting energy, managing water and waste. That contest is now open. It will culminate in a grand prize of $2 million to develop a scalable prototype for one of these relocatable temporary camps. So if you got an idea, or you know someone that works in this area, let them know. Let them know to listen to this, and let them know to go to the website. It was a really great conversation. Everybody from the Department of National Defense was super nice, really accommodating. Chris was lovely to speak to. So before I get to the conversation with Chris Brosinsky, I have to mention, of course, featherposter.com. Featherposter.com is where you can get 36-inch by 48-inch canvas posters printed and shipped to you within Canada in 1 to 3 business days. Why would you want a poster? A canvas poster? Well, because they're lightweight, foldable, they won't tear, and they don't crease. What you put on that poster is up to you. I'm thinking that some of you out there go to research conferences and had to have made a research poster before, and you've put it on those giant poster sheets and laminated it, and then had to carry around that terrible poster tube in order to bring that to your conference. You can avoid all that with featherposter.com. You can get these canvas posters. They look great, high quality, high resolution. They don't crease, they don't tear. You can fold it up and fit it into a laptop bag, your carry-on bag, a backpack, doesn't matter. Makes traveling much, much easier, and they look great. Um, Simon, the co-founder of featherposter.com, will be on an upcoming episode, and he did say, what you put on it is your choice. If you want to get your face put on there, as I have said I do, he will do that. And if you do decide to do it, use TWOBRAD, the promo code TWOBRAD, TWOBRAD, at checkout. You'll get $10 off. It's a great service. Simon's a great guy, so I highly recommend you checking it out, featherposter.com. And with that, we're going to move on to the conversation with Chris Brosinsky, the director for the Ideas Program from the Department of National Defense. Freak Motifs are going to bring us in with a bit of music, and then you'll have it. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for reaching out and thanks for setting up the call. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about the program. But I think, most people, I for sure was one of them, had never heard of this program before. So why, I think it probably makes sense to just start with you can give us sort of the, what it's all about, the name, and what you guys are up to.
Perfect. So I will start with the little bit of the history. The Department of National Defense has always, it's the largest department in Canada, a government department, and it's always had a strong science and technology program. So we call that the internal program. It's about 1,300 people across 6 geographic locations in the country. Each one of those labs has a specific scientific specialty or two, all towards building defense capability. Those labs, in terms of science and technology, produce amazing work that is then used to collaborate with allied nations that have similar interests in their defense departments. To that matrix of what we call the build and collaborate parts of our world, we added something which is the access mode, the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security program. So what we wanted to do was build another tool that allowed us to access more and more of the innovation ecosystem, particularly in Canada. So in Department of National Defense, a couple of years back, they launched a new policy called Strong, Secure, Engaged, which defined the mission for the Department of National Defense for the foreseeable future. Inside that document was an initiative to launch an innovation program called Ideas. We proceeded with that, and in February of in the November of 2017, we received approval to start this program, which is funded at $1.6 billion over a 20-year period. We had our official launch in April of 2018, and we launched the program in this domain. The reason for the program, as I talked about this build, collaborate, access model, is we're really trying to reach out to everyone who has a concept, an idea, a solution to a defense or security problem that we are publishing. For sure, we're working on all the pertinent priority problems inside our own labs, collaborating with allies. Really, the access program is everybody else, what do you think your potential solution is in a generic way to these problems that we are facing? So if it's a big data problem, for example, many industries face the necessity to process big data, make sense of it. Defense has a similar problem, a similar challenge. And so we're trying to learn from each other. We have problems. We want to make sure everybody in Canada who has a solution that could be applied to defense and security has a window in to that environment.
Right. Okay. So if I'm understanding, the Department of Defense already has labs. They're already working on some of these things, but this program then is a way to sort of tap into, the potential for solutions or research outside of your already established labs?
You have it. For sure, in those programs, we already engage many Canadian researchers, academics, small and medium enterprises, large companies, individuals, etc. What we're trying to do is just similarly based challenges, just publish them in a way that they're more approachable from anyone from any domain. So someone working in health sciences may say, I'm working on this capability, machine learning, for example, to process large amounts of data. I could then apply my expertise to a defense and security problem as equally well as I could to a healthcare problem. So we're trying to just bring out everyone who has an interest in solving problems by exposing some of the problems we would like to work on.
Okay. So yeah, it's a way of just sort of, I guess, getting new ideas, getting, ideas outside of your own box, I guess, thinking outside of the box, I guess. But I'm wondering, what was this, you said you started the program in 2017. So was there a real need? Like, did you kind of identify that, look at, hey, we need to start, getting new ideas here. We're maybe falling behind in some way. Like, what was the inspiration behind, reaching out and putting out these calls?
I think, I mean, for sure, we want to engage everyone who has great ideas. There's an amazing amount of capability in Canada. We wanted to tap into it. In general, over the period of history, federally funded research has declined, and there is a larger percentage of all research in Canada done outside of federally funded research. We wanted to make sure that we tapped into that. What we determined is that sort of 80% of all research in Canada is not funded by federally funded resources. And so we wanted to make sure that we tapped into that tremendous wealth of knowledge and expertise that is well funded, and make sure that anyone who is interested in solving problems that are common, anyone who's interested in working for defense and security, we make it approachable for them. But grosso modo, there's a lot of research being done in the country that we wanted to make sure that we tied to defense and security.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's maybe also like kind of a surprising note for people to think, because I think a lot of folks, when they would think of research, would tend to think that it's publicly funded, so that might be surprising for some to hear that most research is not. Is that sort of common? Is that just kind of the way of the world these days? That's the way it's going, and so you guys recognize that, and yeah, basically, it's time to get on board with a different model.
I think we just wanted to recognize that there is so much valuable research being done in Canada. We wanted to just provide that opportunity to make sure that people's amazing ideas in a totally different domain could apply to defense and security. So literally, the name ideas for the program is an acronym to describe what it is, but it literally is a shop for those ideas. We think there's amazing stuff going on. Have you ever considered helping us solve a defense capability or defense problem? So one of the pillars of the program is really that outreach effort. Make sure everybody in the country knows defense is publishing challenges that you can easily access, understand, and start to apply your expertise. Over time, we hope those develop into something that provides a defense capability.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of interesting. So you're really just kind of putting it out there, like, hey, maybe it's the wrong terminology there, but like kind of open for business, I guess. We have issues, we have needs. Let's put it out to people, and they can kind of flip through and be like, hey, I have an idea for that. I might be able to help out with this one. And so maybe it's a good time to explain how that works. Like, how do you communicate this to people? Where do they see these ideas?
Sure. So we talked about the first pillar, reaching out to everybody. So we have an extensive outreach and engagement strategy that we go everywhere. We talk about the program. We talk about the challenges. All of those manifest themselves on the website, which is canada.ca/defense-ideas. Easy to find if you type in ideas with the lowercase a. It typically pops right up. On that website is where we initiate the conversation. We talk about the program, how it works, the mechanisms for funding research, but at bottom line is there are some tabs there: current opportunities, past opportunities, future opportunities. If you click today on current opportunities, you'll see that on August 21st, we launched something called a contest, which is a way of asking innovators to come forward with some cool concepts. A number of those will be awarded prizes. If you have a concept we're interested in, we will ask you to participate in subsequent rounds to integrate your technology. Ultimately, we're trying to build a prototype related to the contest. So happy to go into that in some detail. But to respond to your question, we have 5 funding elements that we use, and each is designed to bring researchers and exploiters together. So typically, the bulk of our activity is competitive projects, which are multi-stage contracts. We put out a challenge. You are given 6 months and a couple $100,000 to develop your idea. We put out a challenge. We may start 5, 10, 15 efforts on that challenge for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, we determine which ones we're still interested in, and we fund them for a second round. Again, trying to move them to become more like ready solutions and find a place to exploit them. That's the bulk of the activity, and we spend about 60% of our effort on competitive projects. Others, we recognize the challenge itself maybe is underrepresented in the conversation in Canada in the research domain. So to use an example that we have in something called Innovation Networks, advanced materials for advanced manufacturing and materials for camouflage and protection. We just wanted to say there's some amazing technologies out there on materials and additive advanced manufacturing methods. How could they be applied to the defense case of protection and camouflage? So we think that's an underrepresented conversation, and so we've started micronets, university-led. You do some research in this area, all of those micronets will grow, come together, and there will be a core capability in Canada who understands the intricacies of that problem, and at some point we can harvest and put together some development projects related. I mentioned contests briefly. The other 2 tools are Sandbox, which is an opportunity for mature technologies to be relatively mature prototype technologies to be demonstrated to the Canadian forces and our scientists to get some feedback on how would this apply to defense. And the last tool is more mature. We have mature products. We want to buy some and put them in the hands of operators to evaluate for their effectiveness. Are they ready to go, or do they need some additional development? So the range of tools spans everything from a concept right through to the testing of a very mature product ready to be put into the defense enterprise. So the tools cover that full spectrum with a focus on development of ideas in competitive projects.
All right. And I think we wanted to, and we will touch on the sort of current contest that's open right now. But if you don't mind, I'd like to just kind of ask a few more things just about like funding, or how the program itself, because again, I don't, there's always an issue, I think, or people have an issue in their head of what's the military up to, what are they building in there, is it secret, is it meant to be secret? But this really is kind of opening it up, not just for you to get the ideas, but it also allows people to see what sort of issues you're faced with and what you need to sort of accomplish and what you guys are accomplishing. Do you guys consider that a benefit from that side of it as well? Just like a transparency kind of thing?
I believe so. And I think, there's a couple of things related to challenges. When you talk about the Department of National Defense, I think the initial connotation would draw you to Air Force, Navy, that sort of thing, Army in particular. That's the typical. When we put out challenges, and you'll see this on the website in past opportunities, when you look at these smattering of challenges across, you'll find that they're themed a little differently. You'll see a large focus on people and the protection of people, and fostering, making sure people are well prepared, well equipped, etc. So you will see challenges from across the defense enterprise, recognizing that we have procurement and finance and policy and material groups and the traditional armed force elements that you'll be very familiar with. When you look at the challenges, you'll see there's a smattering of those challenges that we are interested in how to improve the recruitment and retention of women in the Canadian forces. How do we handle lightweight ballistic protection? How do we process large amounts of data? Do we have a mechanism? Do you have a mechanism that would help us understand what's in a video stream, et cetera, et cetera? So we just try to make all of the challenges that we're solving across the enterprise approachable in the way that you can see how your capability might be a good match for it. So we're allowing the innovator to craft a solution where they think they can solve the challenge in whole or in part.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's maybe the interesting thing for, somewhat like the audience that might be listening to this podcast is, what are some of those challenges? Like where, you don't necessarily think right off the top of your head that, you're going to be interested in the big data. I mean, obviously it makes sense, and maybe that's a terrible example, but what are maybe the areas that you guys are looking at, or that you need, you're asking for ideas about, that the average person wouldn't think of?
Yeah, so I guess I did try to portray that a little bit, across the entire enterprise. The big data challenge, to use that as an example, if it's artificial intelligence applied to big data, or a machine learning example, that could apply to many domains. It could help us analyze data to do a better job of advertising, recruiting, analyzing video, etc. So we're trying to make it somewhat agnostic in that sense, because some of those technologies, some of those capabilities apply to every facet of the defense enterprise business. So I think, if you scour those challenges, you'll see that there is a large diversity across, but you'll note there are some themes that are related. We are interested in protecting our own people. We're putting our people first, accelerating the development of next generation technology. So we do try and theme them so you can sort of see a bit of a chronological nature to it. Sometimes we need to invest in the conversation so we can have projects, so we can have prototypes, so we can buy a piece of equipment and examine it. Depending on the challenge, depending on your solution, you may have something ready to go we'd love to test. You may have a concept that you're hoping we could be interested in. We're trying to provide a door for all kinds of problems to be solved. So I think the best place, certainly on the web, you can see the 25 or 30 challenges we put out already, would give your listenership a strong sense of what's to come, etc. There is a future tab there where we try and forecast what's coming up in the next 6 to 12 months. So we're always trying to be ahead of it and sort of signal what's coming next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm taking a look at and I was taking a look at the website, and yeah, some of the calls and competitive projects and stuff, and it does sound pretty interesting. And again, I think there's some things in there that maybe the average Canadian doesn't know, that the armed forces are involved in. I'm looking at tracking and deorbiting space debris.
Yeah, sure. So inside the Air Force, there's a Director General responsible for space. And so we have a number of challenges related to space, understanding, tracking the movement of things that are in space, making sure we understand how to best protect assets up there. And so there's many challenges related to that. There are many pieces of things in orbit that are commercially based. So the end result is people have ideas that could benefit defense and their application and use in that domain.
Right. And I guess I think of the classic Canadian space image is the arm on the shuttle, but that was kind of a private enterprise. You guys are obviously military. So when you're getting these technologies and you're working with a, a private entity, say it's an academic or something like this, how much of it is, how much of the process then can be shared once you come up with a solution? Is it then the domain of the defense, like you guys kind of take it over, or is it something that can also then be translated back into the commercial space?
It's a great question, and I think we sort of glossed over it in a previous question. Ideas by nature is 100% unclassified. So everything we're doing is looking for the pursuit of a great idea and how would it apply in the defense and security domain. When it becomes something that needs to be applied in the defense and security domain, we have to enter into different sort of engagement. There needs to be a sharing of data at a classified level, etc. So we drop out of the ideas program and into the current program, which I described as the build program, where we have the capability of contracting and sharing at classified levels. And there's a vetting process, as you would expect, for that to happen. But ultimately, as we go from a great idea implemented in a defense and security environment, there's an element of security that will be addressed. The hopeful notion from the ideas program is there is commercial entities, commercial ideas that will be very successful in the commercial market. If that technology or your expertise that you use to develop that very successful commercial stream could take an offshoot into the defense world and solve a defense program, you would be a company, an organization, an entity with a couple of prongs. One which is famous in the commercial space, and one which is helping to solve a secure classified issue inside the defense stream. So you'll see elements of that across all projects.
Right. But like, so someone who's interested maybe in some of the challenges that you guys are facing and think they have a great idea, they need not be worried that their idea is going to get taken or something like, or that they won't be able to then apply it, for their own commercial business or something like that. I guess I'm just saying there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of cooperation and back and forth. And
yeah, I appreciate the question. So we've talked about classification. Protection of intellectual property is something that comes up all the time. By decree, the intellectual property, even though we are paying, is the property of the innovator. So your good idea is your good idea, and it remains your intellectual property. The department reserves the right to negotiate a license to use and have used that intellectual property. But at the end of the day, it is yours, and we negotiate with you to use it. So that speaks to the notion, I have a great idea, it's commercially successful. If I share it with the Defense Department, we just want a license to that technology. We're not going to go into competition and take your idea and put you out of business commercially, if that makes sense.
yeah, I could just, like the cynical person might be thinking, well, if they want my idea, they'll just swallow it up and then it, gets classified and put in the government, archive somewhere, and who knows what'll happen to it. But that's really not, like, that's kind of, I don't know, that's really kind of a myth, I guess.
For sure. And I think we do address those kinds of questions on the website under our FAQs. So if there's a answer that's not satisfying there, we will happy to have a look at it. We try to address those proactively so people know what they're getting into. But at the end of the day, this program, very accessible. We're trying to be open and access all this amazing stuff going on in the country.
So then, the program's been going on for a couple of years now. Where are you finding that a lot of the sort of applications are coming from? Is it a lot of universities? Is it commercial companies? Or are you even getting, the sort of DIY guys in their garage that, have a great idea and, put in a proposal or something?
I love this question. It is one of the diversities that's so wonderful about this program. We have a population of people that help us in the defense enterprise, for sure, and there's amazing companies that form. ideas gives the opportunity for anyone. So an individual, you call them a DIY, but an individual could put in a concept that is accepted. We've had numerous young people from university programs apply for the program and get their first $200,000 6-month contract as a result of an amazing idea they had. That really is appealing to us because people see it's accessible. They see it was easy to get in. Now they're part of the conversation. To more appropriately answer your question, we have a great distribution from individuals to large companies. I would say about 50% of our activity is small and medium enterprises, which in Canada is 500 employees or less, and it covers a lot of ground there. Large industry is in the 15-16% range. Academia in the mid-20s, 25 to 30%, and then a smattering of individuals, nonprofits, etc. So, the big pieces of the pie are small and medium enterprises, large companies, and academics.
Yeah, that's kind of what you would kind of maybe what I would have guessed too. But it's just, yeah, I was like when you guys first reached out and I started looking into the program, it really struck me as, like I said, I hadn't heard of it. I thought it was a neat idea, and like a great way to sort of, we got all these problems. Why not, reach out and get as many ideas as we can. Some will work, some won't. But then I have a background as an academic researcher, and for anyone doing research, funding is such that's basic. You're chasing that funding all the time to get your ideas. So to have this as a source that maybe people don't know about, or a new source of potential funding, I thought was really interesting.
Appreciate that. The great ideas need to get funded, and if we're part of that equation, we're very proud of that. The other side, I guess, that we think is very attractive, it's not a winner take all. When we put out a challenge, we have started 5, 10, 15 efforts on a challenge, all at $200,000, etc., up to $200,000 6 months. So that doesn't mean it's a winner take all. We will decide there's a nugget of interest here. We want to see where it goes. And we may get off of that funding schedule at some point. The ones that we do proceed with, it is, in fact, because we've made the selections the way we have, we can go to a directed contract. So it's not reapplying for funding. You're telling us what you would do with more time and more resources, and we'll go for another year if it's something that we're interested in. So in terms of funding, we're trying to sort of take that out of the equation in a sense that you don't have to craft an entire new idea and recompete, etc. A good idea, we're trying to get to a place where it feels a little more like it's a continual stream of funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm just meaning like, I'm thinking from the, maybe not even so much the academic side, but like a startup business or something like that specializes maybe in a niche field or engineering or something like this. And then, they maybe didn't realize that these opportunities were out there.
For sure. And as we do our outreach, we are trying to be everywhere. We are using other government agencies to help promote our message. We are trying to be active. I encourage anyone to go to the website and hit our subscribe button. We will email you when it's time for a new opportunity to be launched, etc. So we don't want you to miss anything. Surf the web page. If we change the future opportunities page, we want to just let you know there's something coming up. So it's not a deluge of email. It's just a please. There's some new opportunities. Please think about being part of our conversation.
Mm-hmm. And so, well, let's then talk about the current opportunities that you have right up. I know when you first reached out, I think it was the pop-up city idea that we were talking about discussing. So do you want to maybe, give us the info on that one?
So as I mentioned, the bulk of our activity is in competitive projects. The pop-up city is a contest, and the inspiration for this was sort of akin to things like the well-known X Prize that you would have seen. The Ansari X Prize says if you leave the ground and achieve this orbit and land back on the ground, etc., you have achieved this grand challenge, and there's a prize. You get a big check for having done that. The cost of doing that achievement probably outweighs the cost of the prize. So the notion is you don't pay for the development, you pay for the achievement, but in achieving that goal, there's a capability that's created, there's a buzz created around that capability. So in that spirit, we are using a contest tool where we're awarding prizes for effort. The pop-up city is our first endeavor into that realm. It's a 4-phased contest where we're looking at, ultimately the goal is giving the Canadian Forces some new ideas on how a deployed temporary camp could be more effective, more functional, etc. You can imagine there's accommodations, there's kitchens, there's a place to eat, a place to shower, and there's all the supporting infrastructure. The contest we have is with that vision in mind. We're looking for great ideas on how to generate power, how to manage water, and how to manage waste. So those are critical infrastructure pieces that, if done well, become very effective, reduce the logistic burden of supporting an encampment. So the contest is Pop-Up City as a vision, 3 distinct pillars. The first phase is what are some great ideas around the generation of electricity? What are some great ideas around generation and purifying of water, etc., and waste? So we have 3 pillars, 3 technical domains, and we're awarding 10 prizes of $10,000 each for ideas. This hopefully will bring out non-traditional players, could be mechanical engineers, etc., that never thought of Canadian Forces or building part of a city, but they could be people who have expertise in those 3 domains. We're making it very accessible for them to say, this would be more effective than what you're doing now, diesel generators, etc. So we're awarding the 10 best ideas that come forward. We're awarding those awards. So you put in a submission, we make a decision, a check is written. That's the first round. The second round is we're inviting those now 30, 10 in each, to come together and pitch to each other, sort of, a dating or a Dragon's Den kind of capability. The notion there is find some partners in the other domains so you can make a submission on an integrated solution that encompasses those 3. So there's some synergistic benefits from the waste heat from a power generation that might be useful for processing waste, etc. So we're looking for integrated solution. And at the end of that, we will pick 10 integrated solutions from the 30 potential solutions. We'll pick 10 and they win a prize of $50,000. The top 3 of those will be invited to pursue a contribution agreement with us, which is $1.5 million over a period of time to help pay for the development of your integrated prototype. So that's round 3. And at the conclusion of that, those 3 prototype systems will be evaluated. Who did the best job with fuel in, waste out? And the winner of that receives a $2 million prize.
Wow, okay. It seems like a neat model of whittling down. So you get the ideas, and then from the best ideas, they then have to work together to put it together. So you're really kind of putting it to them with making it all work. But I think that's interesting. Um, in terms of like the actual technology, the issue, I mean, I think this is one that people could probably wrap their heads around. The forces are deployed all around the world in different areas. This is you could see how they might need this technology. But again, thinking about then the idea that comes out of it, we get this great prototype of power generation, waste stuff. Um, this is something that the forces could use in the field abroad. But would there be a need for a similar thing in Canada?
My personal opinion would be yes. There are rural communities that would benefit from a better mechanism to generate power, maybe more reliable, more efficient, etc. And so I think that's true across the board. You could think of disaster relief, remote camps, remote rural living people. If we can improve qualities of life, give them opportunities to I think commercially you could imagine some sort of systems available that would help people just have better qualities of life. And I think commercially we see examples of that all the time. Again, we're trying to harvest some of that towards a specific defense and security need here.
But then the idea, like kind of what we discussed before, it's like the knowledge transfer could go back into the private, or you could use it, um, you know, outside of the military. So I think it's just I'm just thinking about like the pros of this kind of just idea, brainstorming, getting everything going. It's not just going to be for soldiers in the field. There's going to be greater benefit, I guess, is what I'm pointing at.
I would suggest yes, and I think some of our participants will be people with new ideas and people who do this for a living. There are people who do amazing power generation solutions already. We're just going to try and tie them all together. So, in the principles of ideas, we're reaching out to everybody who's currently in our inventory, if you like, trying to add to that population, and we're trying to foster them working together to come up with even better solutions. So diversity, partnering, new players to the game. Those principles, I think, are all embodied very well in the contest.
Um, the other area that I was kind of thinking about when, it was specifically related to, the issues that are brought up in this pop-up city challenge contest. Um, Power generation, reducing waste. I'm assuming that the forces are coming at it from a perspective of, being able to sustain their people safely, efficiently in the field, that kind of thing. But is there, and maybe you don't have a direct answer for this, but I'm wondering, with the climate debates and talks that are going on, is that an issue for the forces as well? Is like, can we do this in a reduce the impact that we're having on the ground in certain places, or is that sort of just secondary? We have to worry about safety and whatnot first, and if we can be cleaner, then great.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't necessarily be able to speak to that, but I think as Canadians, as people in the Department of Defense, I think we're all very interested in making sure our operations are um, as low environmental impact as possible. In the contest, for example, we are for sure will be meriting things that have a low environmental footprint, show noticeable reduction in the use of hydrocarbons, et cetera, et cetera. So those are built in sort
Mm-hmm.
of into our program. In the way we theme challenges overall, everything we do is related to defense capability and improving the entirety of the enterprise. So there is an entire directorate responsible for infrastructure and the environment, and they put in challenges routinely through this program. And their focus is on green and clean, low power, better efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. As a organization in the department, that is their mandate. It's everyone's responsibility to think about their operation at all times that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And
for
that,
example, even in procurement, we have an obligation to buy the best, cleanest, most sustainable piece we can find.
and I would think that, like you said, those kind of concerns, maybe the classic climate concerns, are sort of baked into the ideas already, because it would just make sense to be looking at that future. That is, the way things are going. So you want to be prepared to not be so reliant on different sources of fuel, or have a source of fuel that's maybe more readily, like solar or something. I'm thinking off the top of my head. Does that make sense?
For sure. So it is baked in, but certainly that organization, as an example, will be putting challenges. I know there's some stuff coming up very much related to reducing hydrocarbon
Mm-hmm.
dependency, etc.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, I mean, I'm curious, and I think that, like I said, the listenership maybe for this podcast, I think there's going to be some people listening that will definitely check out the website and say, okay, this is, maybe there's a challenge out there that I can get involved with. But I think there's another, half, maybe the folks that aren't involved in research themselves, but come here to hear about really cool technologies and research that's going on. Is there something you can share with us, like some stuff that's made it through the process that you guys are excited about, a technology that's maybe being implemented or close to being implemented?
Sure. In general, it is early days. We did launch in April last year, and so we've gone through 25 or 30 challenges that have just started to deliver the fruits of that the first bound of contracts. What I would focus on is, pardon me, what I'll focus on in terms of what are we actually implementing is next month on September 9th, our sandbox starts. And I think you probably would have seen that on the website. There's a
Mm-hmm.
sandbox in Alberta with the notion of counter unmanned vehicle systems. So how do we detect drones, unmanned vehicle systems, and how do we defeat them? Companies and organizations, about a dozen of them, are coming together to show us their ability to detect and what solutions they would provide to counteract their effect. So it's an example of very tangible. There's an interest by D&D and others in how do we understand, this whole new thing of drones flying in our commercial residential airspace. And so the defense application is probably quite obvious, but it's ubiquitous. It's a technology that applies everywhere. So some of these entities coming to the sandbox to show us what they're after may or may not have had defense on their radar, but we're opening that opportunity for them to say, this is what we do. Is this interesting to defense? So it's an opportunity in a very tangible way for that conversation to start. Again, all ideas, challenges are open 100% from individuals to large corporations. So your listenership that has good ideas, and many, many people do, I would challenge you to look at our challenges and see how your idea might be a solution in whole or part to one of those big challenges. So I make a claim. I've never been stumped when I talk to people at trade shows and conferences that whatever you work on, there's always a challenge that is somewhat related. And I think there's always a way to imagine how you could become part of the conversation. Administratively, applying to a challenge is a 15 word limited document, ends up being 4 or 5 pages, a couple of tables, and a few hours of your time. You are in the conversation about how your idea might help defense. So I don't think the administrative burden is big to get in the conversation.
So the guy that's been building some kind of drone or some kind of drone defense system in his garage should get in touch with you.
You bet. And the way to get in touch is, those challenges are many, and I think if you can find your way into a challenge, a lot of people read those submissions, making the decisions on which ones to pursue. So a good idea will get talked about, and it'll be part of the conversation, which is really what you want. And if there's something that's directly in your wheelhouse and you happen to hit the timing, great. It's the reason why we publish current and future. And we also show you what we did in the past and who won those contracts. So you can consider, hey, I wasn't in the game, but I can see who won. Maybe I'll give them a call and see if they're interested in my technology. So we encourage people to mine that data for those reasons. Find your partners, find out who is your competition.
All right. So, like you said, it's early days, so maybe there's not a whole lot of cool drone fighting technology that we have right now to talk about. But is there areas, and I mean, this kind of goes back to what I think, talking about a little bit at the beginning. But is there areas that like you personally are like really excited about? You see the calls coming up and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be really cool. Or is there areas where you think specifically the forces are looking at saying, we are behind in this area. We need to focus on that. Maybe it's like cyber or space. Yeah, the drones, autonomous stuff. What are you seeing? What is the
Yeah,
sense
it's
you're getting?
as a program person, it's out of my wheelhouse to comment on what I think is the best thing, and I'm certainly not going to favor one specific effort over another. But
Mm-hmm.
as I see, as we go to these meetings where we discuss the results of the evaluation, which are done by scientific staff and Canadian Forces members, and we come to consensus on those. They're presented at a strategic board that we sit on to make those funding decisions. I am absolutely gobsmacked at the diversity and the creativity that comes in the door on a challenge. There may be a preconceived notion that this is the solution. I think we all have sort of those biases. I would say across the board, and if you look at the first 16 challenges, which were very diverse, we're just amazed at the creative solutions that have come forward in ways that it could change the game. If this works, that's what we should be doing. Maybe maybe we'll stop doing what we were doing. This is the next great thing, etc. So, as a commentary, I guess that's where I would leave it is absolutely broad diversity of answers to the same question and very, very creative. So I think we're onto something here. Just trying to harness the creativity. I would be remiss if I wouldn't suggest this is a direct complement to the work that's going on inside our current programs already. We have an amazing network of scientists and labs that do great work. They are creative, they are innovative, they are right on top of things. And given that you ask the same question to a bunch of other people, you're going to get some more answers. That's the beauty of this is, can we find something that's complementary, synergistic, or potentially in some cases replace what we thought was the direction. So it really is that fish for ideas. It's a lovely way to call the program, calling it ideas.
Yeah, and I guess I appreciate that you can't give us your favorite or give us too much information on the what's happening right now. But I would like to ask about a specific, just because my background was in infectious diseases, and I'm just interested if you have any programs in that area, or any maybe upcoming contests or something like this. How active is the Department of Defense in those areas? Sort of looking at the next pandemic or these kind of issues.
Yeah, I'm a little bit outside my wheelhouse for sure, but in the department, we do have health services, we have medical research going on for sure, and you'll see some of those challenges. Sometimes they manifest themselves as CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear defense writ large, and so there's detection, there's protection, there's the treatments, etc. And so you see that theme across many. But yeah, there certainly is a very active research community around protecting the forces, making sure they have the right equipment. We know where the threat is. We have the right equipment. We know how to protect and treat, etc. So yeah, it's an active community. We see smatterings of challenges in our work. At some point, some of this stuff becomes defense specific for sure. And I think there's tremendous collaboration that goes on between departments in terms of sharing and what needs to be done. So sometimes, depending on your background, sometimes the mandate for that specific thing isn't defense, but we would be a very interested receptor in the research that comes out of that.
Yeah, I think of it too, just because again, this is my background, and I know that some of the Canadian labs in, I believe the federal labs, were involved in some of the Ebola treatments, and it's just a nice little tip of the hat to Canadian researchers that they've been involved in some big things and bringing these things and helping people around the world.
For sure, and I think defense has been been a very active player in equipment evaluation, protection. What does it mean for Canadian forces? People, you said it well. There are many government institutions that are focused on health research. The granting agencies, etc., do some great work. Our scientists are absolutely tied into all that stuff to be aware and to advise the Canadian forces on what's the right direction to take from a scientific perspective.
My next kind of line of thought is when you're coming up with the challenges? You know, like you obviously the forces has a list of things. I'm sure, you know, these are the areas that we need to work with, or that we need to improve on. These are the challenges that we're facing. How much input do you get from allied countries in terms of what they're looking at? Should we be looking at the same things? And is there collaboration in some of the challenges like this?
For sure. So speaking to the ideas issue, we survey each department, each organization in the department, and they give us their challenges and high list which are their biggest priorities. For sure, those are informed from their own networks, from their collaboration with international defense players, and from a science perspective, we do the same. We have our scientists who inform from their science perspective what they collaborate with other players in the domain space, etc. Everybody's trying to bring their intelligence towards informing what do we need to do, what's the right thing to do inside our own program, where should we go out for additional help. So it's a real balancing act, but I would be confident in suggesting that everybody at the table who's talking about priorities is well informed by their own networks in their domain of expertise.
And then with this, just I guess in a similar vein, um, would this be the contests and whatnot? Would it be open to people outside of Canada, or is it like sort of Canadian companies, Canadian citizens sort of thing only at the moment?
I like this question. Canadian content is always a discussion in competitive projects. And as example, um, we set a 50% Canadian content rule, which says we would love to have the solution be Canadian, but at the end of the day, our job is to help find a defense capability that is right. If it's not Canadian, we ask people to organize their affairs to be at least somewhat Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
So those rules apply. As we get to higher levels of readiness, commercially available products, if the best thing is not Canadian, there is public policy in place that says we can buy a foreign piece, but there is a Canadian benefit that needs to be derived. So in general, we are looking in ideas because we're very early stage. We're looking for Canadian ideas to come forward and use this program to leverage their capability towards a strong Canadian defense, economic benefit for Canadians.
All right. Um, yeah, I guess, for me, looking at the program, like I said, I think it's interesting. Being the sort of science reporter that I am always interested in the technologies, in the what's going to happen. But it sounds like we might have to wait and see to get the specifics of that. Do you guys plan to, or are you like, I know you said on the website there's the past opportunity so you can see who won and stuff like this, but are we going to get a chance to see some of these, technologies in action? And will that be, disseminated, in a broader way?
For sure. So you referred to the past opportunities. You can see who won some of our initial contracts. You'll start to see a growth of people who have advanced to a next stage of development. It is at that point we are starting to do success stories on this technology that we're now funding. Looks like it could lead to this, and we'll have sort of one-page tear sheets on projects or in a theme, so that we can sort of roll up the success stories. And for sure, those are under production now. It's just a matter of letting results come in, making sure that those results have a home, etc. So yet to come. It's a little bit early days, but we're very excited. We would use the phrase the pipeline is nicely full, and there should be good results coming out the end for sure. We're very encouraged by what we see at the front end, so we're very excited about our future for sure.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, with it's the program's been 2 years, and research generally takes a while, a lot longer than 2 years to go from idea stage to a prototype or something working. But that's definitely something that I'll be looking at just to see, what kind of neat things come up. I know a lot of science podcasts, a lot of people that are consuming these kind of things are interested in these topics, are always looking for the YouTube videos of, what's the cool robot they're working on, or whatever it is, So you guys are gonna, start putting some of that stuff out there as it comes along, and we'll be able to find it on the website, or do you have other channels that you disseminate stuff
Uh,
through?
for sure. So the website is a great launch point. We are using social media, and we'll use social media in the future, and you'll start to see those products come forward. So social media is quite active. You'll see a lot of activity currently around this challenge, that challenge. Here's an announcement, etc. On those same sorts of triggers, you'll start to see some of the results coming forward, if they're tear sheets or videos, etc. But for sure.
All
So
right.
all the links to that stuff will be on the website, and our public affairs team will make sure that stuff is posted right away.
Okay, great. And I'll provide a link to the website for my listeners in my stuff, so they can always find it through there as they're listening to this. But I guess like that, I don't have a whole lot of other specific questions for you, but I guess I would just say, like, what's the message that the take home message that you want to get to Canadians about this program, and about just in general what the forces are doing, and what they need in terms of not just ideas from the public, support from the public, something like this.
I guess I appreciate the opportunity. First of all, thanks you for putting the link on your website. That'll be much appreciated. We appreciate that, and hope people will drive themselves to our website.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the takeaway, um, we all start in the Department of Defense at the policy: strong, secure, and engaged. Strong is about strong in Canada, and this program is an opportunity to harvest the amazing intellectual property in the country towards a defense and security benefit. So we're very, very proud, and our pillars are all about recruiting people into the program, funding them, giving them a place to land in terms of exploitation. In that fundamental, Canada's defense enterprise is strong, there's an economic benefit for Canada. Those are the two things we report on in terms of performance of the program. And I think this program is doing a great thing to bring more of those people, more Canadians, towards the important role of the defense plays in the country.
All right. Well, I'll just say again, thank you for reaching out. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us about this. And yeah, I guess to the listeners, I would say maybe you never thought you could help out the military. Maybe you thought that your expertise was not what they were looking for, but it sounds like there's a lot more going on than just the classic things that we think about.
Most appreciated. I thank you for the time and the opportunity to explain in some detail. I hope it's valued.
Right on. Okay, thank you very much, Chris. All right, there you have it. Conversation with Chris Brosinsky, Director of the Ideas Program. Check it out if you're interested. The website is in the show description and show notes. We'll tweet about it as well. As always, if you want to follow the show on Twitter, it's @2rad. For you, took me a minute to remember that there. And you can also hit us up on Instagram at that address as well. And my Instagram handle is @bvanparadon. As always, thank you to the Freak Motif for their music, and thank you to Sebastian Aboud for the logo. And of course, thank you to you, the listener. Hope you had enjoyed it. Like I said, we will be back with more regular episodes. My co-host Brad should be back shortly, and we also have some more in conversation ones coming up. I have a bunch scheduled, and they will be coming out in the next couple weeks. So subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Give us a rating. That always helps. Tell your friends if you want. No, tell your friends. Please do tell your friends. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening, and we will catch you next time.